So welcome, and thank you all for taking an hour or so out of this beautiful afternoon to let me practice Zoom on you. I think it's maybe the wave of the future, a wave of the future, and I've participated in lots, but I'll confess this is the very first time I've ever presented. So thank you for your indulgence as I have papers everywhere. Welcome to my 3-season room, my favorite place in my house. If you hear some traffic noise, I shut the window, so hopefully we won't, but I live right off Lake Avenue, and there just seem to be trucks all afternoon. The pictures behind me that I think you can all see, those are all from Colorado. We have lots of photos, of course, all over here, but it just dawned on me that those are from Colorado, and that's one of the trips that unfortunately didn't happen this year, but we're hoping for 2021. For those of you who don't know me, I am also a librarian. I don't work full-time as a librarian anymore. Now I teach travel, lead travel groups, and for the past 6 months have fantasized about travel. And looking forward to the days when we can do that again. When? Who knows? That's up to science. And I can tell you a little bit about how you might want to go about it. I can tell you my own thoughts on where the places might be that might open first. I can't say if, I can't say when. Where? So I think since a large majority of the world is now not open to us anyway, I think it's pretty definite that travel within the United States is going to be maybe some of our first opportunities. In fact, people are already doing that. And some people had not stopped. The airlines are running flights. The hotels are all open. They're all running special protocols now to compensate for some of the pitfalls of traveling during a pandemic. I would recommend that for anybody that does plan to travel, that you break out all of your components, all the places that you think, or all of the different modes that you think you might be employing, and look them each up individually on the web and see, what is your airline doing? Is your airline still blocking middle seats? Your hotel that you're choosing, is your hotel operating at 50% capacity? How is your hotel handling breakfast? How is your hotel handling check-in? These are just some of the common sense things that you would do if you're traveling overnight to visit a family member, or if you're driving cross country, or anything in between. I'm not speaking from experience on this. I have not I've barely left Saratoga County in the last 6 months. The girl who would pick up and go anywhere always had a toothbrush in a bag ready to go, always knew where my passport was. I'm apprehensive, and I am open about admitting that. So I barely go to the supermarket. So therefore, I really haven't left home much. I'll just tell you a little story to just illustrate that it's that there are many, many things to think about. We were going to go to Maine for a few days. There's a place in northern Maine. It's not near the coast. It's quite remote, and it has a dark sky park, national park. And my husband, many of you know, is an avid amateur astronomer, and he wanted to visit this park. So when we take trips within the US, we go west to Colorado, We go south to try to get nicer weather. We rarely go north and east. We haven't been to Maine in decades. We couldn't quite pull the trigger. I'm sure you all heard about the wedding in Millinocket, where at least half the wedding guests were infected with COVID. The virus spread to an elderly couple. It spread to the minister's church in southern Maine. It spread to a jail where one of the wedding guests is employed. It spread within the inn where they went for the dinner. I'm not saying this to scare anybody. Everybody knows all these things. Everybody knows that any place can be the next emerging hotspot. So I would just say, do your research, think about things, follow your own comfort level, and most important, I would say always, but certainly now, don't plan anything that you can't get out of. Now, when I say get out of, I don't necessarily mean a cash refund. We'll talk about that a little bit because things have changed. And it's in some ways harder to do that than it was previously. In some ways, it actually might be a little easier to do that. But when I say don't book anything that you can't get out of, what I mean by that is don't tie up more funds than you're comfortable losing. And don't get yourself in a situation where you're kind of on the hook for the entire cost of your trip, unless that's something that you're willing, a risk that you're willing to assume. That's personal. Everybody has to find their own comfort level, just like you need to find your own comfort level with whether you are even willing to travel at all, your own comfort level with how much of a risk, financial and otherwise, you're willing to assume. So just keep your eyes wide open. The best advice I'm going to give you in one word, and this is not a surprise coming from a librarian, is read. Read everything. A number of us who are participating in this meeting right now, we're planning a trip with me to France in March, and reading the terms and conditions became very, very critical. I'm just going to show you a screenshot that I took. Now, just give me a second to find it. Here it is. Okay. So every airline, every tour operator, every hotel, every industry that is related to travel has their COVID-19 updates, their COVID-19 policies, their COVID-19 protocols. So let's see, this on the surface looks like excellent news. I highlighted it for you. We're permanently getting rid of change fees for most economy and premium cabin tickets for travel within the United States. Okay, so let's look at that a little more carefully. I like the word permanently. I wouldn't trust it 100%. I would not be surprised if there somehow, somewhere, sometime, a long time from now, when COVID is not a risk, a fee somehow reemerges. They might not call it a change fee, but for now, we'll take it, right? We'll take it throughout the United States. We'll take international change fees waived through the end of December. Of course, if we're not permitted to travel to other countries, that won't apply anyway. I did underline very carefully that word most, because that's where you could get tripped up. If you book economy fares, a lot of us do. I'm all about trying to keep things at a at a good price point. If you book the least expensive economy fares, they're going to get out of it. The airline will get out of it. However, just so that you know, all of the major US carriers have followed suit. I believe United was the first airline to announce this welcome amendment to their policies, and the other carriers have followed suit. Of course, those of us who rely on Southwest know that Southwest doesn't have change fees anyway, and hasn't. And also keep in mind that a change fee doesn't mean that you're going to have the same price for your ticket. If the price of the ticket goes up, you're still liable for that. What you're not liable for is that 100, 150, 200 ridiculous change fee that the airline applies just so that somebody can do a keystroke on a keyboard. So welcome news. For those of you who travel frequently to hotels, maybe you're aware that hotels always have now a multiple rate structure. They will have what I would call a loss leader, their kind of get you hooked rate, which very often is a non-cancelable, non-changeable rate. I would say that for now, I would stay away from that. I don't think that a hotel operator, manager, chain is going to look kindly on someone saying, well, you know, I know it's non-changeable, but I don't want to travel because of COVID, you've become a hotspot. I think the reply is going to be, you should have known this. You should have known that this was a possibility. So just as a kind of bit, sorry about that. Just as a bit of advice from me, I would stay away from anything that is listed as non-refundable. We need to talk about cancellations. I know that one of the things that we would all love to talk about is booking and actually getting on a plane or in a car or any mode of transportation and actually going somewhere. I can't wait. I look forward to the day that a vaccine is safe and approved after January, and I'll be right there, first in line to get that vaccine and to resume traveling again. But for now, we really have to focus if we're going to go ahead and book something, or if you have something already booked, if you have something that you will want to cancel, we need to talk about cancellation. So the most important thing about cancellation is who does it. If it's a world of difference if you cancel a trip or the trip is canceled by whoever is operating the trip. I'm going to use tour operators as an example because they're this is where this is most likely to happen, but also with airlines. If an airline cancels your flight, it's a world of difference from if you decide to cancel your flight. So if you are the one who cancels, penalty, some sort of penalty will almost certainly apply. That would be, it would vary from company to company. It would vary depending on your time frame. It would vary depending on how much you had invested in the trip and where you are in the process. If the company cancels, you are entitled to compensation. Notice I said compensation. I didn't say a refund. And I'll even qualify further. I didn't say a cash refund. You should be. In my world, if you have paid for something and you don't end up using it, then less any cancellation fee, penalty, administrative fee, whatever they would call it, that might apply. You shouldn't be on the hook financially, and they shouldn't be holding on to your money. But that's not the reality. It has actually always been the case that that's not the reality for every company. I've learned a lot in these last 6 months. As I said, canceling lots of things, helping other people with situations that they've found themselves in. So to go back to the word compensation, you will be compensated. Most likely, if it's a tour operator and they're not offering a cash refund, your compensation will take the form of a voucher for future travel, which of course means they've got you. You know, either you book another trip, and generally they've been very flexible about this. I do have to say, most of the tour companies are giving now through the end of 2022. So over 2 years from now, hoping, praying that things will be appropriate to travel at that point. Not everybody will want to travel, and this has become a reality. Some of the tour companies aren't saying that they're canceling trips. They're using the word postponed. That's semantics, but it really, it's splitting hairs, but there is a difference. And the tour company would say, well, we're just postponing your trip. You know, you still got the trip, you're still booked on the trip. I do know of one tour company that even took the liberty, it's a tremendous liberty, of rebooking. They would say, okay, your trip is supposed to go in May 2020. That, obviously that's not happening. We're going to book you from May 2021. Really? Seriously? That's a tremendous liberty. And I think the tour companies have had to, well, this particular one has had to back off on that, because that is, that's just completely inappropriate. And that just absolutely didn't fly. Go back to my notes here. So how do you find out what the policy is for the company that you're booked with? Every tour operator has somewhere on their website something called terms and conditions. It could be a page, it could be a book. It's legalese, and most people, if they give it a cursory glance, and I'm talking pre-COVID, if people gave that a cursory glance, it was yeah. And either you have to check off that you agree to it, you might need to sign something, or you just assume that you are now being covered by these terms and conditions. At this point, I would say, read it. Even if it's long, even if it's cumbersome, there are particular sections that would be the most important. I'm going to actually show you an example in just a little while. I'm going to show you actually a few examples. So I realize I've now focused again on tour operators, but they are not the only entity that will have some sort of terms and conditions that you will need to agree to. And simply by purchasing whatever you're purchasing, you are tacitly agreeing. So airlines call it the contract of carriage. Cruise lines call it the cruise contract. essentially that's what it is. It's a contract between you and whoever the seller of travel is. So we're going to go back to my photos file here. And I'm just going to show you a couple of things if I can find them. Let's see, we start here. Okay, so this is from the homepage of the website for a tour company. You can see with your own eyes what the company is. I'm not hiding anything here. This is Overseas Adventure Travel. A lot of you have traveled with OAT. Many of you who are in this room right now traveled with me to Iceland this past October on OAT. It was a phenomenal, phenomenal trip. I'm using OAT as an example because this is a company that changed their policy. They changed it abruptly in March of 2020 as a direct result of COVID. And this is something that every traveler needs to be aware of. So, as I said, the terms and conditions are on every website. They might be buried. This is all the way at the bottom in the small print on the homepage of the website. I searched and searched and searched and found it. And lo and behold, oh, I'm sorry, it looks like I'm going to have to go back to every photo individually. I didn't quite expect that. Bear with me, please. Okay, this is one section. This is section 8 of the terms and conditions for overseas adventure travel. It's the important section. It's the section on cancellations and refunds. If you notice, I highlighted in blue here a very important sentence. The sentence goes as follows. Any applicable refunds will be returned to you in a manner to be determined by the company, including but not limited to credit for future travel. That is a change. These terms and conditions were amended. They were amended in spring of 2020. The original terms and conditions stated that you would be refunded in the same manner as your initial payment, which would be a credit card or a check. In other words, a cash refund. And then a little further down, there's a little discussion of what the cancellation fee would be. So I am not saying this to tell everybody that you should never travel with this company. Quite the opposite. I believe in this company. I've traveled 20 times with this company. I've brought probably 13 or 14 groups on group tours with this company and with their sister company, Grand Circle Travel. And if that's familiar to some of you, yes, that is the company where we were booked on the France River cruise back in March. And yes, we ran into this precise change of policy. And it was not a pleasant experience. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. Now that I'm aware, I can pass that information along to travelers. It just becomes part of your toolbox as you're trying to decide whether to take a trip or not. Is this something that's acceptable to you or is it not? Now, the other thing is, because there are at least 2 of you who are here in this program, and as we're recorded, there may be some others of you who will be listening to this in the future. If you remember, I have said many times that for the Egypt trip, which is now rescheduled, that was canceled for this December, this does not apply to us. The original terms and conditions with cash refunds do apply. And there's a reason I'm telling all of you this. I'm telling you this because you have to be your best advocate. And anything that you do not agree with is up for discussion. It took a lot of negotiating to make this happen. And for those of you who aren't involved specifically in this trip, you don't really know what I'm talking about. And so I apologize for digressing a little bit. But the point that I'm making is you need to advocate for yourself. And the only way that you can do that is from a position of knowledge. And you get into that position of knowledge by reading. So I will tell you all that I got caught in this. I got caught in this cancellations and refunds terms and conditions. I did not do my homework. I did not read it. My husband is a lawyer, as a lot of you know, and we got caught up in this. Just take care of yourself. Do what you need to do. And I can't stress enough, if the trip is acceptable to you and the conditions are acceptable to you, I wouldn't shy away from this company. I would just know what I'm getting. So the next paragraph down talks just a little bit about the cancellation fee, which is $300 per person. And that is just the kind of straight up fee if you cancel early enough. Cancellation fees are on a sliding scale, I guess you would call it, where the fees go up the closer you get to departure. So I'm going to stop the share here, and then I'm going to go on to another screen and show you, if I can find it, what I mean by that. Yes. So this is also from OAT, from their website, and these very carefully spell out the cancellation charges. And as you can see, if you cancel 90 days or more prior to a trip, the cancellation fee is $300. Sounds familiar, right? Because the other number, the processing fee, was also $300. That's all you're liable for. And it states so somewhere in here. But then if you are canceling closer to your departure date, you see that your cancellation fee goes up 10% of your trip price, or $300, whichever is greater, and then it big jump to 65%. And then if you cancel 29 days or sooner than departure, then you forfeit 100% of your trip price. And that they do break out here for land tours and river cruises. So I'm just mentioning this to you because it's a little more information for you. This is not universal. Every company is different. I'd like to show you another one. Let's see. Oh, sorry, wrong page. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, and I'm going to learn it for the next time we do this. Okay, this is another company called Odysseys Unlimited. I don't know this company. I know of them. I've never traveled with them, but I wanted to pull out their cancellation and refund policy because it's very different. And this may affect how someone might feel about booking a particular company. So you receive a full refund for any cancellations made up to 95 days before departure. 95 days is just a little over 3 months. That's really generous, I think. And the New York City born, innately suspicious person in me will probably think, really, for sure. And this is the time that you want to make a phone call. You don't want to make assumptions here. You don't want to pass up on something that is very good, but you also don't want to get yourself in a situation where there's something that isn't here or is somehow stated in a different way. As I said, I think this is quite a generous table of penalties. Of course, it is exponential. It does go up the same way that it did with OAT, and that you can see that within 29 days, once again, you're in a situation where you're forfeiting the entire cost of your trip. I had a few others to show you, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to. However, I would be happy to send some information. Basically, I just looked at some other companies. I will tell you, I looked at Viking, I looked at Road Scholar, and I looked at Vantage, which are 3 other companies that do this very similar type of traveling. And each one, the terms and conditions were quite different for cancellations and refunds, which only just illustrates my point. Study. I do want to show you, however, the policy of one other company because it is extremely different. So bear with me while I look for that screenshot. And here it is. A number of you have traveled with me on Colette Tours. And now I'm going to just digress for a minute and say that it's not usually in my practice to name names of tour companies. I don't work for any tour companies. I have no relationship with any of them other than that I use them to book my group tours, and we travel with them as well, Bernie and I, when we travel on our own. I'm naming names because these situations are extraordinary, and I think everybody needs to know exactly, as I keep saying, what you're getting yourself into. So Colette Tours has what I consider to be an extraordinary cancellation policy. You purchase a travel protection plan, that's also known as insurance, it's really the same thing. You purchase this plan when you purchase your tour. It's optional, except if you're traveling with me, it's not. I insist that everybody that travels in my tour group have some sort of insurance. And when we're traveling with Colette, which we frequently do, this is the insurance that I insist that everybody get. What you see here, what I underlined, is exactly the truth. Any reason, every tour, no blackout dates, no restrictions. This is pre-COVID. This has always been their policy. And I have talked with representatives of the company because as things resume, I am going to resume booking tours. And I need to know that this is going to continue going forward. I should also mention it's quite reasonably priced for the peace of mind. It's optional, you're not forced, as I said, by the company to do this, but I make it a requirement of traveling in a group with me, with Colette. So I did underline it for you. Cancel for any reason, get your money back, all the way up to 24 hours before your trip departs. And this is the truth. This is for real. I can tell you for real because I've had to implement this numerous times on the trips that I've led. I would like to, since we're looking at Colette's policy, I would like to talk with you just briefly because we're really running short on time, I can see. I would like to mention travel insurance. Couple of things that people have learned about travel insurance. Pandemics are not covered. They are never covered. Travel bans are not covered. You cannot go to the insurance company and say, but our government won't let us go to Spain, so I can't take this trip. And the insurance company will say, well, yeah, we're sorry. That's really a shame, but we cannot satisfy a claim for that. I did talk with a broker that I work with, an insurance broker in, guess where? Omaha. That's where insurance is. We had a lengthy conversation yesterday. I said, is that going to change? He said, it might. Just like the travel industry, the insurance industry is turned upside down by all of this. So we don't know going forward, but as things stand right now, if it's not even worth putting in a claim, which begs the question, is it worth it to get insurance? I've talked about that in the travel classes that I teach at the library. I've talked about that many times. And that is actually worth an entire session just by itself. So I would say the short answer is yes, depending. And the depending is how much, again, of a risk are you willing to assume? Where are you going? How much are you spending? If you're buying a plane ticket to go to California, I would say not really worth bothering. If you're taking a safari in Africa, where you might need some medical attention on an emergency basis, I would say absolutely. So that's the short answer. You can get insurance through your tour operator. An airline will now almost always ask you if you want to insure your trip. There's lots of permutations to that, so I'm not going to get into it. At this point, if the library is willing to have me do another session, I would like to take a deeper dive into that, because that's quite important. I guess I would wrap up my presentation part by saying that if you subscribe to travel emails, if you subscribe to TravelZoo or Sherman's, or if you're on anybody's website or anybody's mailing list and you get catalogs in the mail, you're going to see some phenomenal offers. So I would say, look at your risk, look at what you're willing to do. I will tell you, just for me, I'm not booking anything right now. I have the reschedule of the trip that I was planning to lead at the end of December. We have rescheduled that. Everybody's made their decision about how they're going forward. Other than that, I'm not rescheduling anything personal. I have 2 other group trips. The Colorado trip, some of you were booked, and the Italy trip, which was supposed to leave in about 3 weeks. These are both Colette Tours, and I have new dates and will be sending information out. I'm doing that with Colette because of that insurance, because of that cancel for any reason, 24 hours before departure, full cash refund, not a voucher. That's the reason I feel comfortable doing that. Anything else? Right now, I'm not really planning to leave Saratoga Springs, which makes me sad, and I'm sure it makes all of you sad. But I think that the priority right now is to get ourselves through this crisis that we're in. So with that, I'm going to turn things back to Chris. Thank you very much for attending this presentation and sticking with me. And please feel free to get in touch with me if there's anything further that I can do to help you. Please watch for a future program if we're going to have one. And thanks for your time today.